Nigeria's government dragged to United Nations over raid on Justice Odili'S home. Welcome to the news, and thank you for tuning in to listen. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SIRAP has urged Mr. Diego Garcia Sayan, UN Special Rapporteur on the independence of justice and lawyers, to put pressure on the government of President Muhammadu Buhari to conduct a credible, thorough, impartial, independent, transparent, and effective investigation into the vicious assault on Supreme Court Justice Mary Odili by rogue officials. SIRAP also urged him to ask the Nigerian government to ensure that any investigation into the assault is based on human rights principles and protected from undue influence. The outcome of the investigation must be made public and the suspected perpetrators and their sponsors brought to justice. SIRAP's petitions follow the recent invasion of Justice Odili'S Maitama Abuja's residence by armed personnel. In the petition dated 13th November 2021 and signed by SIRAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization said the intimidation and harassment of Justice Odili is a flagrant assault on judicial independence and apparently aimed at further weakening judicial independence and the rule of law in Nigeria. SIRAP said the unconscionable attacks against Nigerian judges will seem to be a deliberate attempt by the authorities to exert pressure on the judiciary and undermine its independence and authority. These attacks are putting Nigerians' freedom at risk. According to SIRAP, the current investigation by the Nigerian police fails to meet international standards as it is neither independent nor effective. As such, the investigation is incapable of identifying all the suspected perpetrators and their sponsors, and credibly delivering justice in the matter. The petition read in part, "We urge you to push for the adoption of a resolution by the Human Rights Council to establish an international, independent, and impartial investigative mechanism into the attack on Justice Odili and other unresolved cases of intimidation and harassment of the judiciary and assault on the rule of law in Nigeria since May 2015. An international investigation into the cases of intimidation and harassment of judges in Nigeria will meet the highest international standards and best practices and assist the Nigerian authorities to take steps to improve respect for independence of the judiciary, the rule of law, and access to justice for victims of human rights. If not urgently addressed, the attacks, intimidation, and harassment of the judiciary may render judges unable to defend the rule of law, to provide accountability for the many gross human rights violations in the country, or to protect the rights of the Nigerian people. Nigerian authorities have a legal obligation to take measures to protect the independence of the judiciary and ensure the safety and security of individual judges. SIRAP urges you to visit Nigeria to carry out a mission to investigate cases of intimidation and harassment of judges, assess the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law, and to continue to monitor the situation. The proposed visit will help to support the efforts to bring Nigeria's justice system in line with international standards and free of political interference. Nigerian authorities continue to fail to thoroughly, impartially, independently, transparently, and effectively investigate cases of attacks, intimidation, and harassment of judges, the very people who protect and guarantee human rights. While the Nigerian authorities have arrested some of the suspected perpetrators, at least 10 more persons reportedly involved in the assault on Justice Odili are still at large. Independence of the judiciary is enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution of 1999 as amended, and under human rights treaties, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, to which Nigeria is a state party. The attack on Justice Odili is not an isolated incident. There have been several violations of judicial independence and the rule of law in the country. In 2016, for example, Nigerian authorities reportedly invaded in the middle of the night the homes of sub-judges of the Federal High Court and justices of the Supreme Court. The authorities have so far failed and or refused to identify those suspected to be responsible and to bring them to justice. An independent judiciary is essential to the protection of human rights and respect for the rule of law. The principles of independence are the hallmarks of the rationale and the legitimacy of the judicial function in every state. The absence leads to a denial of justice and makes the credibility of the judicial process dubious. It is the principle of the separation of powers together with the rule of law that opens the way to an administration of justice that provides and guarantees of independence and transparency. As expressed in the Bangalore Principles of Judicial Conduct, judicial independence is the prerequisite to the rule of law and a fundamental guarantee of a fair trial. According to our information, on Friday, October 29, 2021, some people claiming to be soldiers and policemen invaded the Abuja home of Justice Mary Odili'. The perpetrators identified themselves as members of a government joint task force and used a fraudulently obtained search warrant to attempt to gain access into Justice Odili'S residence. The perpetrators claimed that they had information that illegal activities were going on in the residence. Another blow. But it's a good thing that somebody or people, a group of people, are fighting tooth and nail. Look, this matter is done the right way and justice is served and the perpetrators are fine. Do you know what this will mean? It means that anybody who is going against or who is going after the judiciary for doing their job. You know, I used to say, or I always say that the three arms of government, they exist to checkmate or do checks and balances on each other. But because of reasons I do not know why, sincerely, reasons I do not know, it has not been happening lately. That is why you see the executive doing things, and you start asking yourself, how? The judiciary is not saying anything about these things. The legislative will come to their own, judiciary will do their own, and it will be as if all of them, they are under one force. Somebody is not allowing them to do their job well. So this will now, if this is challenged, and people that are